Welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Oweleke TV. My name is JIBRIN, and this is my angle. Barrister, once again, thank you for joining us today. For those of you who don't know, Barrister Manta, he is a very senior legal practitioner of over 40 years in practice. So we are here actually to discuss about Buhari's case in France that just, I think, happened earlier in the week. No, last week, sorry. So we shall be talking about that briefly after I have read the news. I think I'll be reading from Salah Reporters there. Okay, the headline is Buhari Obasanjo to testify in Paris court on 2.3 billion naira Mambila arbitration case filed by Sunrise against Nigeria. The news reads, former President Muhammadu Buhari is set to testify on Monday in the $2.3 billion arbitration case brought against Nigeria by Sunrise Power at the International Chamber of Commerce, ICC, in Paris, France. The cable reports. The case involves allegations of contract breach by the federal government. The case revolves around the Mambila Power Generation Distribution Contract Award to Sunrise Power and Transmission Company of Nigeria in 2003. I beg your pardon. However, the presidency has refuted claims that Buhari was pressured to testify, stating that he did so willingly and out of patriotism. An online news platform reported on Saturday evening that former President Muhammadu Buhari had been summoned to a court in Paris to testify in an arbitration case related to the $6 billion Mambila power project dispute. The report alleged that Buhari appeared before the court on Saturday over claims of breaching the terms of a power generation and distribution contract awarded to Sunrise Power and Transmission Company of Nigeria by former President Olusegun Obasanjo in 2003 or 2003, I beg your pardon. I don't know why this year is confusing me. Meanwhile, the cable report also noted that President Obasanjo is also in France to give his testimony. The presidency, in his statement, denied that Buhari was forced to testify in Paris court, describing it fake news. While respecting the confidentiality of the proceedings, we wish to state categorically that President Bola Tinubu has not forced anyone to testify or to refrain from testifying against Nigeria. It said, all eminent Nigerians involved in Nigeria's defense are doing so willingly and out of sheer patriotism and conviction. President Bola Tinubu and the entire country are grateful to them. Meanwhile, according to the report, Michael Aundaka, a former Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, who had previously filed a witness statement in support of Sunrise, has abruptly left Paris, reportedly claiming he was summoned back to Nigeria by President Tinubu. Sources indicate this move might be part of a broader strategy by the Sunrise team to allege witness intimidation by the Nigerian government and garner sympathy from tribunal members. I don't know. Anyway, Barrister, you will expatiate on that. The news is a little bit longer than what I have just read. Barrister, this honestly, when I read this, it was so shocking to me. I don't know. I don't know. To me, it's unprecedented. I don't know if you, first, I need you to respond to answer if this is unprecedented, whether it is unprecedented or not, because I've not read. This is strange to me that either a sitting or a former president of a sovereign nation will be summoned to appear before it over a civil matter, not even a criminal matter, over a civil matter. I can understand when it comes to criminal matters, when it comes to war crimes or whatever, but something like this, I don't know. Has it been heard anywhere globally before now?
Well, you use the word summon. It's actually not summoned. He is
Now,
to testify.
no, okay. Oh, forgive my language. Please just answer straight yes or no. Has this been heard? Has this been done before in any country?
Yes, it's not out of question. It's not outlandish or strange. This
Okay.
is a civil, this is a civil arbitration
Yeah. So
against Nigeria.
if it is a civil arbitration, why will the president or the former president be the one to? This is it's a government, for God's sake. We are supposed to have representatives of the government of the country.
No, there are issues. Perhaps if you understand this Mambila Plateau issue properly,
Yes.
you will understand why not just Buhari, Obasanjo as president is going to testify, Buhari as president is going to testify, and if Yaradua was alive, he would have been required because of the specific actions they were alleged to have taken, which most of them, like Obasanjo, denied, Buhari denied. So the being a civil arbitration that is going to cost Nigeria billions in dollars. And remember the previous case, PID, that Nigeria managed to escape a $14 billion case against Nigeria that
Yeah.
Nigeria was able to unravel and defeat the case because of exposing the corruption in the process. That is the only thing that saved Nigeria in that PID case, when corruption in the process was exposed and the International Chamber of Commerce had to dismiss the case based on the corruption. Now we have a similar case now, but with a different dimension. In this case, the allegation of corruption is not weighty, and the evidence is not weighty. So we have to use another tactic by bringing the principal actors to disown the alleged agreements and contracts that gave rise to the claim of about initially 2 point something billion compensation or damages against Nigeria in the arbitration.
So the essence is for now, the government actually is doing this is because they want to give a kind of potency to their defense, right?
Exactly. The issues are intertwined. Maybe you have to get a brief background of this contract for people to understand why it is necessary for Obasanjo and for Buhari to appear and give evidence to strengthen the defense of Nigeria. It's also an indictment against our country. It exposes us to ridicule in the whole world because people looking at us will think that these people do not know what they are doing, that they cannot put their acts together. This Mambila, excuse me, this Mambila power project was conceived in 1972 under General Gawan. Nothing happened till 35 years later in 2003, when during the Obasanjo regime, the contract was allegedly awarded to Sunrise. Leno Adesanya, whose father, the late Senator Adesanya, is a prominent businessman in Nigeria and abroad. He brought a consortium of Chinese companies, and the contract was awarded in 2003. Obasanjo was president. Now, the issue is Obasanjo has denied that his government awarded that contract. The Minister of Power then, Dr. Olu Agunloye, is the one who anchored that contract. And Obasanjo said, look, when I was president, such a contract must be approved by the Federal Executive Council. Ministers had a limit to which they can carry out a contract. This was a $5 point something billion contract. And the minister had no authority to award such a contract. Only the Federal Executive Council could award it, and the Federal Executive Council did not award such a contract. So that is a part of the defense. So you can understand why, meanwhile, Agunloye, Dr. Olu Ogunloye, who is the architect of the contract, is insisting that it was properly awarded by the government. So you can see the reason why, in defense of Nigeria, it is necessary for the president then, Olusegun Obasanjo, to testify personally that his government did not award the contract. Now, whichever way you go, a new government came up during in 2007. The contract to Sunrise was revoked and awarded to another Chinese consortium.
You said 2007. You said 2007?
Yes, 2007.
Hold on. Hold on. Sorry to cut you short. The contract, what contract was revoked?
The alleged contract given to Sunrise
was
in
revoked.
2003 was revoked.
Who revoked it? Government?
The government, yes. And it was signed, given to another company for 1.4 billion for civil works. It was given to a Chinese company to do the civil works of the Mambila power project at $1.4 billion. That was 2007.
Okay. Now, if contract was revoked, the said contract was revoked, how come the government of Obasanjo and Buhari are denying that they awarded such contracts? Who revoked it?
Apparently, there were documents signed by the Minister of Power, Dr. Olu Ogunloye. EFCC are prosecuting him. In fact, Leno Adesanya himself was declared wanted by the EFCC in respect of this very issue. But he rushed to the Federal High Court that gave an order to restrain the EFCC from prosecuting him. Only recently, the Court of Appeal set aside that order from the Federal High Court. But Dr. Olu Ogunloye is being prosecuted. And part of the prosecution is that he received a bribe from Leno Adesanya in respect of that very contract.
My God. So okay, please finish.
So when in 2007, the federal government awarded a part of the contract, that is the civil works, to another Chinese company for 1.4 billion. Leno Adesanya and Sunrise now protested, and they launched a series of judicial actions against that matter. Eventually, they petitioned President Yar'Adua on the issue, on the termination of the contract, which they believed was genuinely awarded to them. So in 2007, by the time Yar'Adua came to power, they filed a petition with Yar'Adua against the civil works contract of 1.4 that was given to another Chinese company. Yar'Adua's government terminated that civil works contract of 1.4 million in 2009. So the stage was set. In 2012, the federal government signed another contract for general project execution with Sunrise. Again, in respect of the same.
That's the Yar'Adua's government.
Project. Yes. With Sunrise and his Chinese consortium of companies. Then in the same November, in November 2017, the federal government, that is during Buhari's government, the federal government signed a 5.8 billion EPC contract with another Chinese consortium. So you see the complexity, how this thing has been going this way. You give, you revoke, you give to again, then again you give to And this time, there were warnings by the Attorney General, by the then Attorney General, to the Ministry of Power against that General Project Execution Agreement with Sunrise. But it was
ignored.
awarded. So Sunrise resorted to arbitration at the International Chamber of Commerce. That is where we came into, the government now came into the matter. And they were claiming, that was 2018, they were claiming 2.3 billion in damages against the federal government. So there's a time the president of China intervened and sent a special delegation to Nigeria on this issue. And this was during President Buhari's time. At that time, the Minister of Justice, Abaka Malami, acting on behalf of the government, signed a settlement agreement with Sunrise to pay Sunrise $200 million in settlement so that they can forget about the matter.
Wow.
Now, it is that 200 million settlement agreement that Buhari is denying that he did not authorize. He did not authorize his Minister of Justice to sign a settlement of to commit the government to pay Sunrise $200 million because he believed that it was not merited, it was not warranted. So you see the issue, Sunrise now went back to the arbitration. Now, based on the 200 million settlement, they were now claiming 500 million as settlement. On condition, when they went back to the arbitration, they say they should be paid 500 million damages, but with a condition that the president must personally make a financial commitment towards the project. That is, the president must himself sign a commitment and pay a certain money to them to continue with the project. The government failed to pay anything, whether the settlement or pay anything to Sunrise to continue with the project.
So now, yeah, please, this thing is dragging. My point is, I don't know, what kind of recklessness is this, barrister, that ministers will just arbitrarily commit to signing contracts with contractors without the consent of the president?
That is why you see Obasanjo has been brought in to testify, and Buhari has also been brought in to testify. In addition to them, other people at former Minister of Power, Fashola, is testifying in that Paris arbitration. Other people, I think Abubakar Malami is also supposed to testify with others. Now, the former minister during Yaradua's government, Michael Ondaka, had filed a witness deposition in support of Sunrise.
Yes, I read that.
Now, he was in Paris to give evidence. The evidence is starting today, Monday. So he was in Paris to give evidence, and what the report shows is that he left abruptly. And you can understand in this kind of international arbitration, it is not actually Leno Adesanya that is bankrolling this arbitration and all this. It's the Chinese consortium that are bankrolling this
arbitration
fight, this arbitration. So I think initially they got the former minister to testify in their favor, and he wrote a witness deposition. But he's leaving Paris abruptly to come back to Nigeria is raising suspicion. It is a judicial tactic. You go on and say, oh, we have witnesses, the Nigerian government is intimidating our witnesses that want to testify in our favor. So it's either the government really put pressure on undercut not to testify, or it was a trick, a judicial trick in the first place, to do it and then send him away and say, no, our witnesses, the government of Nigeria is intimidating our witnesses. That will sit well with the International Chamber of Commerce, because already international bodies don't have very good opinion or respect for our government.
Yeah.
So that is a sort of tactics that they are using.
Now, my God, this is a mess. This is a web of mess. And honestly, it's an embarrassment. Just like you noted earlier. Now I understand this whole thing. I didn't even see it to be this way before. But it's obvious, just like this is proving you right, that actually this is a web of mess. Honestly,
total mess.
My God, our former presidents are involved in this. Ministers are involved in, but all past ministers are they are made to actually testify in person. This is really embarrassment. And the main embarrassment is, for God's sake, for ministers who arbitrarily signed contracts and signed agreements on behalf of the government without the consent of the president. A project like this obviously requires the president's assent or consent. Obviously, there's no doubt about that, because this is huge. So, Barrister, I don't know. Have you gone through the filings of the in the courts? Have you gone through the evidences from both sides?
You know, the filings of the International Chamber of Commerce are secret.
Oh, really?
They are not open to the public. But somehow some people have got wind of what is there, because if Michael Ondaka has filed a witness deposition responding to particular allegation, it means that he has seen a process that is supposed to be secret. So that is another angle. That's another angle to it. These filings there are enclosed. They are not released to anybody. So if somebody is responding to particular allegation, mentioning paragraphs, so it means he has had access to those processes which are supposed to be secret. So that is another issue. But above all, from whatever angle it is, Leno Adesanya of Sunrise has documents that he claims are contract documents.
No, but let me ask. Yeah, of course, obviously, nobody goes into such a massive contract without contract documents. That is not a surprise thing as an evidence. My question is this, Barrister. Let's even assume, okay, not even assume. The reality is he signed a contract, and he was awarded this job. Now, by law, by international law, whatever, arbitration law, I don't know if you are conversant with that. Can a minister, if the law says that contract of such magnitude must go through the National Executive Council, yet it didn't go through National Executive Council, but the minister unilaterally on his own just signed this contract, is such a contract valid?
It is not. If you are to show that the head of the government approved that contract, that would be a different thing. The international bodies coming to do contract with countries like Nigeria, you are expected to know the procedure of legal contracts. You can't just come and take any document and go. You are expected to know that contracts of social magnitude must go through social process. So in trying to get that contract, it is also your obligation to follow and ensure that the appropriate approvals are obtained. Now, the complication in this case is that for previous governments, instead of building on the denial that by Obasanjo that this contract was not awarded, entered into a settlement.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. Yes,
to pay
yourself in the foot.
To pay money, shooting yourself in the foot. implicitly admitting that a contract was entered. Because if no contract, if you maintain the legal argument that no genuine contract was entered, why do you have to settle? Why do you have to pay them a whooping sum of $200 million in settlement?
That's an indictment.
So those are the complications that came later that made the whole thing very complicated.
See, that's the problem. That is why this Malami of a thing, now charge and bail lawyer, honestly. You and I have talked about this behind the scene. These are people, these are lawyers, they just get based on political inclination or political connection or whatever. Otherwise, I don't understand why such, I don't get it. Now, what you are telling me right now is, so Buhari government obviously knows about the contract, but the only thing he does not know, what Buhari is denying, is the settlement.
Yes, he is saying that he did not authorize his Minister of Justice, that is Malami, to sign a settlement agreement with Sunrise.
Is that
of $200 million?
Is that
$200 million?
Is that a good reason, a cogent reason enough to actually sway the case against in their favor?
Again, if he did not authorize as the head of government, because the sum of $200 million is beyond the mandate of a minister.
Okay.
The minister on his own cannot award or make a settlement or issue a contract of $200 million. It must be taken to the Federal Executive Council, or at the very least approved by the head of government.
Yeah, contracts like this, both the contracts and agreements like this, is even if the president assents to it, is it required that the president's signature, president will append his signature on the contracts?
No, you know how administratively a memo is written to the president.
Yes.
And he can memo back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, back and forth.
There's a procedure to know that, yes, the president approved. You understand?
Yes.
In the case of Obasanjo admitted that Dr. Olu Agunloye, the Minister of Power then, had previously briefed him on the matter. And he told him that he is not interested in that he has his own ideas on how to approach the power issue in Nigeria. So he was surprised when he brought a memo to the Federal Executive Council on the same issue. And he directed in that Federal Executive Council that the memo should be stood down. That is all he knows about that issue. And there was never a Federal Executive Council approval for the contract. That is Obasanjo's, and he has been saying this repeatedly. For the past 5 years, he has been, whenever this issue comes, he says the same thing. So he has challenged Agunloye to bring any evidence that he or the Federal Executive Council ever approved the award of that contract. He has been saying this for long.
So now, in the case of Buhari, that awarded, you mentioned this another $5 billion job now Buhari awarded. So
to another
different company.
Consortium, yes.
So they don't have issue with the company, the other company.
No, the company, there are legal issues. That company, loans, contracts awarded to Chinese company or consortium, they get their loans for those projects from the Chinese Exim Bank. So when there is an issue, dispute like this, the bank cannot give you the loan. You must first go and sort it out, sort out the dispute. There are legal challenges and disputes. So a bank will not take the risk to give you loans to go and on a project that is subject to litigation and legal disputes. So at the end of the day, it is a show of shame. The whole world, we are washing our dirty linens in the public. The person that is suffering is the Nigerian people who have been denied. That project is supposed to produce 3,050 megawatts of electricity. Since 1972 till now, no light has happened. It's the Nigerian people that are suffering. There were supposed to be a series of about 3 dams that constitute the project and underground power
honestly,
station.
Barrister, I
Nothing
remember.
has happened.
Yeah, I remember this Mambila project during Obasanjo. Because even me, I remember that time that we heard that a contract, this Mambila contract project, this Mambila project was awarded. Then I don't know to whichever company, to what company. That is what I can't remember. But I know categorically, I read this news in the dailies then that Mambila project was awarded.
Yes, that is the issue that we are talking about. Because
so if news carried it, because me honestly, I remember that project very, very clearly. If the news carried it that the such project was awarded, obviously, because Obasanjo is that kind of person who reads. It's not like Buhari, who doesn't even read the newspapers or whatever. He just whatever they tell him, he just believes. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what is going on out there in the lives of on the streets. Unlike Obasanjo reads the newspapers, watches the news, other stuff or whatever. So he could have, of course, if he was not he didn't assent to that, to such contract, that could have caught his attention.
yes, but going back memory lane, I'm not sure whether the news was by 2023 or 2020. I mean 2003 or 2007, because the matters, all the Kula Baro and dispute started in 2007 when the civil works, out of the contract, there are categories.
Yes.
They are in categories. The first is the civil work. The civil work aspect of 1.4 billion was awarded to another company. That's when Sunrise now started protesting. So I do not know whether, and that was the end of Obasanjo's government. So I don't know how the news, looking back, at what point we heard, but it is general knowledge that contracts were awarded for Mambila.
Because honestly, I read that news. I remember that vividly. I read that news clearly that the Mambila project was awarded. But the detail is what I don't know.
It's such a shame. At the end, the Nigerian people have been denied the electricity, 3,050 megawatts. And when you consider that the total megawatts Nigeria is using is just about 4,000.
Oh, wow.
As of today, Nigeria's power generation is just about 4,000. And you have a project that would virtually double that power generation. And look at how it has turned out. More than almost 50 years.
Honestly, our leaders have been taking us for granted in this country. Honestly, it is so sad. It is so sad that, and I keep asking myself and asking Nigerians, at what point can we say that enough is enough? For God's sake, at what point can we say this is our breaking point? It is so sad, honestly. So sad. What an embarrassment. I don't know. This Tinubu's government is just has been yes. This one is not his government. They didn't start it. But I don't know. This man is just. There is no president ever attracted the number of the level and number of global international embarrassment as that of Tinubu. Tinubu, even personally himself, he has attracted embarrassment to us. And now this one again. He is not the author of this of this issue, but at least this is his government. So that man obviously have everything about him is just bad omen. Yeah? Everything about him is bad omen. His own attitude and character towards the leadership and managing the Nigeria's resources is also another thing in itself.
Like I said, it's a total show of shame, and I'm ashamed that it's my country that is being put on the world stage in this shameful manner, dragging two former head of states
Honestly,
to go and testify in a foreign arbitration chamber.
Honestly.
I mean,
Honestly.
it's so bad to look at it.
Honestly.
But at the same time, you see that it has to be done. Otherwise, the damage will be unspeakable. If damages of 2 point something billion in dollars is awarded against Nigeria,
My God.
every arbitration carries heavy interest. Within 2 to 3 years, you see that money will double. So it is something that cannot be joked with. Recently, the Minister of Justice, Fagbemi, he was in Daura. I'm sure he was there to coordinate the appearance of Buhari at the Paris Chamber of Commerce, International Chamber of Commerce. But it's not good. It does not look good. It does not appear good. It does not sound good. We constantly show ourselves to the world as people who can't put their ass together. We always do this.
Honestly, it is so sad. It's so sad. Anyway, Barrister, thank you so very much for joining us once again on a very, very short notice.